is a boy who drinks.
Aren't you being a little bit premature? Mr. O'Connor has not yet appeared on the scene.
But will tomorrow to meet your sister. And what do I know of his character? Nothing. No. Old maids are better off than wives of drunkards.
Oh my God.
Oh, be still.
Mother, lots of fellas meet girls they don't marry.
Oh, talk sensibly, Tom. And don't be so heavy.
What are you doing?
I'm brushing that cowlick down.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. One of the great classics of the American theater is being revived now on Broadway, and it has a dream cast who are with us tonight, and I must say they're very fun-loving. Here to introduce them, my co-host, who knows fun, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
I was walking down the street not too long ago, and a strikingly beautiful woman came up to me and said she wanted to come on my show. Who am I to say no to Jessica Lange, the star of The Glass Menagerie? I'm delighted she's on Theater Talk tonight, and she brought some friends with her, her co-stars from the show. We are joined tonight by Josh Lucas as the gentleman caller, Sarah Paulson as Laura, and Christian Slater as Tom. Welcome. All right, Jessica, since you dragged them all...
I did believe in the future of television until this show.
Well, yeah, you have a point there. All right, now, since this was your idea, Jessica, you corralled everybody together.
I did.
I'm going to start with you.
Okay, all right.
Now,
Fair enough.
This is a, shall we say, somewhat controversial production of The Glass Menagerie. You have gone in a different direction from what some people expected to be, particularly with the character of Amanda Wingfield, who's often in the past been played as sort of kind of frumpy and dowdy and grotesque. I mean, you are none of those things. How do you see Amanda?
Very kind of you.
How do you see Amanda
You should
Wingfield?
see her in the morning because it's really noticeable.
Well, you know, I based my research actually on what Tennessee wrote in his character description, the essence of what Amanda is saying throughout the play, and also going back, which is, I mean, you know, why you would do this part without researching Edwina Dakin would be a mystery to me. So I went back and I looked at everything that I could find on Tennessee's mother, and she was really an extraordinarily beautiful woman who in 1938 would have been younger than I am now. She was extremely popular. In fact, I think when Tennessee wrote 17 Gentlemen Callers, he was being very he was being very conservative, because Edwina actually claims to have had 30 at one sitting. She was extremely well brought up, has tremendous pride in herself and her children. The fact that she's living in this kind of abject poverty does not preclude the fact that she has an idea of herself as an extremely elegant woman. So she may only have 2 skirts and 2 blouses, but they are well cared for, just the same as the house. I mean, everything about her presentation to the world is one of, you know, I mean, the fact that her greatest, I mean, outside of her family, her greatest link is the DAR, says something about who she imagines herself to be and who she actually is. You know, I mean, she was raised very well, well-bred, well-brought up. So her speech, everything, I don't understand where the dowdy, frumpy, grotesque ever came from.
Is that Laura Taylor who did it originally, and that's sort of the image
Well,
that...
I don't
not
think,
that we have much of an image
you
of
know,
Laura
I
Taylor.
don't know, because of course I can't judge her performance. You know, it has now entered into the mythology of theater. I imagine she was brilliant. Why wouldn't she be? I mean, she was a brilliant actress. And her interpretation was probably, for that time, exactly, you know, embodied the kind of psyche, the collective unconscious of this country in 1945. But to try to imitate something like that would be, would be
But
ridiculous.
Christian, what's gone wrong? Why are her children such messes?
She's an unhinged woman.
No, but I mean, because she's got these 2 children, and
Yes.
for to use the common term, they're pretty dysfunctional. There's, you know, what's the matter with this mother?
Well, there is, as I do say in my opening speech, I mean, there is a 5th character in the play who doesn't appear, and that would be the father, who left, you know, 16 years ago, and I think that has created a real rift in the family structure. A lot of boundaries have been crossed, and there's just a lot of confusion. I mean, once he left, the family was just sort of lost.
So it's the absent father.
I believe so. And I mean, I know Tennessee Williams really had a huge resentment towards his father, and was really, it haunted him all his life that he couldn't get his father's approval, and so I think that really created a lot of strife.
What do you see, Laura? What's wrong with your mother?
Well, I don't know that Laura sees that there's anything wrong with her mother.
Well, then you, Sarah
But I
Paulson,
think-
what's wrong with that mother?
I think what happens is that there is a certain, for Laura, or my interpretation of her anyway, right or wrong, that Laura is kind of content with the way she functions in the world, and Amanda has other ideas about how, she would like Laura to live, working, business, college. Laura knows that her way of functioning in the world is completely fractured in the sense that she can't function in front of strangers and in public places. So her world, her life, her menagerie, the house, her mother, her brother has become as insular as it is. That's where she thrives. So I just think that for Amanda, her goal and her desire to have Laura be more than Laura even, I think, necessarily knows how to want for herself even, is the problem, I think, or the conflict for Laura is not her own disappointment, but the disappointment her mother feels for her,
But see, I also feel that
again, going back to Tennessee, who obviously was writing about his mother and his sister Rose, is that there's a fear that Amanda has, and I think it's a very palpable fear, that Laura is actually, she's entering into madness, So, Amanda has two great fears. One is that her daughter is going mad. The other is that her son possibly is homosexual and determined to leave at some point very soon. So, this is that is what exists at the onset of the play. When people say, well, why doesn't Tom just leave? Why does he put up with this mother? Well, the fact is that they are bound together, and what binds Amanda and Tom is Laura. And it's Tom's responsibility that he feels for his sister, and that his mother never allows him to forget that responsibility, because since there has been no father. And when you think of the 30s, when you think of coming from the 20s into the 30s, 16-year span of time, that this woman has actually raised these children. It's not like single mothers today, where there are many more resources. This is the height of the Depression, and she has struggled to keep these children cared for, to keep this home operating, as as dismal as it may be. And I think what really is important is that we have to see it in those terms, that it's there is a universality to it, of course, because it is a story. You can see it from so many different
But it
angles.
is Tennessee Williams' very specific life story.
Yes, and it is about trying to, the fear of having a child that may not be right, that may be going mad, which is what happened with Rose, and the idea that the son has been forced to take the role of the father, to take care of this family.
And protect her from you, to some extent.
Well, yes, everybody's kind of protecting each other from one another. It's a very, very claustrophobic, insular, in the sense that Tom is the only one who really goes out. Amanda goes out once in a while. She goes to the DAR meeting, or she works, part-time at the department store demonstrating brassieres. But Laura can't go out, doesn't want to go out. So it's, when you have, that is the perfect dramatic setup, isn't it?
Right. Josh, I'm going to bring you in a minute, but you're the gentleman caller, so you
have
have to wait for the second act.
To have him enter into this little hornet's nest.
Which we will get to in one second. But I want to ask you, again, one of the sort of more controversial parts of this production is, and Jessica says that she's worried that your Tom might be gay. But you don't play it as gay. You don't play it the traditional way we see Tom as this sort of sensitive gay guy. Do you think he's gay?
Well, certainly in doing more research on Tennessee Williams, I think I guess I'm taking it at this particular point in his life. He is a young man, and I think he's just questioning his sexuality at this point. You know, he's going out there, experimenting, you know, seeing what's out there in the world. But at this point, he's just sort of, experimenting and checking it out and seeing.
So is he really going to the movies every night?
No, I have a backstory for all of them.
For every night.
I know what Tom's doing.
Do you want to share that with us?
No, I don't think so. No.
But it involves Malvolio the magician.
Well, in terms of the sexual dynamic, though, I mean, there is, and some of the critics have observed in this production, there is a kind of sexual dynamic that goes on between Tom and Laura. I mean, there are a few scenes where you could get the hint of
Tom
incest.
and Amanda too. I mean, I think there is.
You think
But
there's
I don't
some
think it has
incest in this
anything.
family?
There is no incest.
No.
What there is an incredible dependency and
clinging and a
attachment
confusion,
to, and there is no father. I think that Laura, as well as Amanda, knows that Tom is breaths away from leaving, which I think is completely terrifying, and that yes, he's become a father to her, a brother, a lover, and not in the sexual sense, but something constant, something solid to hold on to.
So in that scene when you climb on top of him on the bed.
That was something I did in rehearsal, and for me, I'm doing that because he's just talked about how much he cannot stand being in this prison, in this coffin. And
How to get out of here
think
without removing one nail.
And
She's
Laura's
the one
not
nail,
an idiot. She may be close to madness, but she's not stupid. And I think she's very observant because she spends most of the play listening to everything that's going on. And I think she hears in the Malvolio the magician speech, she hears things when he talks about flyaway canaries. I think she hears in that his imminent departure. And so I think the laying on top of him was something I was motivated to do because I just wanted to keep him there, and I just wanted to, like when you're a child and your brother and you're just, I just wanted to have a closeness. And there's nothing sexual about it to me at all. It's just a...
Well, you're shaking your head vigorously here because there have been critics who said there's a suggestion of incest in this place, and this is not in this house incest.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think it just exemplifies the limited imagination of some of these critics. I mean, because they were also critics that compared it to Laertes and Ophelia. I mean, that's a critic that has like a more expansive imagination, if you will, somebody who can make a connection through theater, through time, through resources, and I really think
those
that
prurient critics
have an
looking for incest.
attachment. You have an attachment to the way
as
Williams
soon as
has
you
been
see
done.
like a sister lie on top of the brother, then suddenly the red flags go up and they think, yeah, ooh, naughty, dirty stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's very small-minded, I think. Very limited.
But then sex does come to the house.
In the form of a gentleman caller.
Thank Christ, Josh Lucas!
Sorry we took some time to get to you, but
He spends most of the play backstage, and then he comes out, so he's used to this.
Yeah, your half-hour call is what, 9:30 or something?
As a matter of fact.
All right, so into this rather strange house you come, and what is your first impression of these people?
Well, look, I actually agree with not only this interpretation, but what Jessica's saying, because the immediate interpretation that I have is that I find her fantastic and sexy and fun, and everything that she's saying Tennessee Williams' mother was. Everything about her is this immediate thing. Yes,
well, she is flirting with you,
yes,
and she is kind of sweet.
Yeah, yes, she's a bit wacky, and I'm aware of that too, and yes, I would love to be able to speak, because I love to speak anyway, the character, but mostly I just am having a great time, and it's actually in the writing. Constantly in the writing, he says, laughter, laughter, laughter. I mean, it's like it's really literally in parentheses almost every single time he speaks. The direction, the stage direction. So in that sense, I find immediately, yes, I walk into a hornet's nest. I don't know that I'm walking into a hornet's nest, but in that sense, immediately I'm having a great time and going along with
to handle yourself in any social
I'm
situation.
having a blast.
So, yeah.
And this is an exercise for you.
That's right. It's an exercise. Exactly.
Are you genuine in your kindness to her, or are you doing it just because you're, throwing a sad girl a nice
completely
Valentine?
genuine? I absolutely believe in my heart that he starts to have this wonderful flirtation, this wonderful sense of of fun and joy that he has not experienced for quite a while, to be honest with you. There's something she makes him feel that Betty, my fiance, does not. And even though I'm not necessarily aware of it, I mean, it's again in the writing. I don't know. You make me. I don't know how to express it, but you make me feel, it's something he has not felt. And so, in that sense, he's having an extraordinary adventure. And suddenly, he does something that makes him feel ridiculously guilty and shamed. But he's not. And yet, there are moments where he's absolutely simple, even dumb. In this sort of beautiful, poetic way, but there is something rather surface about him, without a doubt, and he gets lost in his own.
Well, maybe he's
reverie.
surface until he meets her, and then he finds that maybe
That's
there's something a
what it
little
is,
deeper in
absolutely.
him somehow.
Absolutely.
But there's
Exactly what it
something
is.
very interesting that Tennessee did in the writing, is that he will have Jim echo certain phrases that you have already heard Amanda say, verbatim.
Word for word.
Word for word. And it's not just by chance. I mean, Tennessee obviously, deliberately chose like certain phrases that Amanda, in her kind of perpetual optimism and trying to make things better, are echoed, verbatim.
Perhaps in a vessel that is more available for Laura
Yeah.
to take in.
I mean, like when he says a little defect,
Physical defect, hardly
noticeable even,
She says that.
or a fairly responsible job at the warehouse. I mean, they are exactly what Amanda has already said. So there is whatever Tennessee was doing, and he's a young playwright.
Yeah.
This is his
forget that, actually.
first play. He's doing something very interesting that almost exists on a subliminal level. But I mean, once you hear it night after night, you begin to piece these things together. But the audience may not actually understand what it's hearing, but it is connecting something, between Jim and Amanda and their kind of energy as opposed to their kind of energy.
Even though they're from very different schools
Yeah.
of thought, one being somewhat old school and one being very modern in certain ways.
Well, you are the modern man in the
He's
play,
absolutely
really.
modern, and even though she talks about disliking science, and I'm talking about liking it, but in reality they are very close in terms of their sense of their view of the world being optimistic.
But it's interesting because you
absolutely.
are trying to preserve a past that
Yes,
is now
exactly,
gone and
right.
hold on to it,
Yep.
this illusion of the past. And you're taking speech classes and science, and you're going to move with television, all these sorts of things.
But you see, I think, again, this is where, maybe my interpretation of Amanda differs from other actresses who have done it before. Is I don't think she's reliving her dreams, but she is not like some remnant of the old South. What she does is, because, and this is pre-television, and they don't have a radio, and it's like, what she does is twofold when she relives these stories. One is that for her, it's like a personal alchemy. It transports her out of this tenement in St. Louis into a time where she was glorious, where she was beautiful, where she was desired, where she had 17 gentlemen callers, and she sat on her veranda like the Southern Belle, like Scarlett O'Hara. So that for her is alchemy in a sense. But also, what she's doing is she's trying to teach her children. She's trying to show them that they are not of this place, that they are
That there is
of
something better.
They are,
That she experienced.
yes, that they come from better stock, as it were, that they are not of this kind of poverty level, type of people, that they come from a long line of, going back to the Revolutionary War, and that this is what they have to aspire to. So when she's saying to Laura, girls in those days knew how to talk. It's like an instructional video in a way.
And
She wants
do you
them
see
to-
in no way how she's contributing to Laura's madness?
Oh no, I don't. I don't think. No, I have to absolutely believe in the defense of my character. That
have to block that out, yeah.
She really, she's
Totally
doing
genuine.
whatever she can to make their lives better.
She's driving me nuts.
Well,
Yeah,
so Laura's situation, we should say the real Laura Rose had a lobotomy.
Yes.
Her psychological distress is just because she had polio and no father?
I don't think that to be true, but I understand Jesse needs
All right.
to do that. That's fine.
And what does Laura need to do? Get out of that house.
Well, but I don't. But that's not even an option for her. She cannot function outside.
agoraphobic.
She's not just crippled
yeah.
here. She doesn't have. That's why when Jim comes in and it's this whole other. It's just this other that actually, for a second, for one instant before it gets snuffed out, provides some hope.
But see, I really think Amanda is trying to get, is trying to make
It's just
this
the
stuff
method,
work
Mother.
for her.
It's just the method.
Stop it. She does. She takes her to business school thinking maybe she'll have a career,
Trying
like
everything.
she has to be able to support herself because that whole thing that Amanda talks about is dependency. What do we have to look for? And she's trying to make her understand what it's like to be dependent and live in some stinking little
bird-like
room
woman.
and like have nothing of your own. That's no life for your daughter. And when the business opportunities kind of fade away, well,
There's the gentleman caller.
there's this like embodiment of the American male, just this wonderful presence and energy.
And
now,
probably the man that Amanda should
step
have
up
married.
to the plate,
But
girl.
if Laura could, that's
tries.
the thing. Is
I
that
know she
feel
does,
like
and she tries valiantly.
She tries, and there are elements of her,
Makes a
of her
beautiful
mother
effort.
in there
Yes.
that are
Definitely.
When you were playing Frances and you were up against Kim Stanley, that mother, did you? And I must say, I was
Perfect.
reminded of her a bit in your interpretation. Did you think that?
I always
as
try to pay
Frances,
homage to Kim in every performance I ever do.
That would be wise. Did you think that mother was a bit destructive?
Oh,
Yes, but I think she was more destructive than Amanda.
definitely.
She actually had her daughter incarcerated
covert.
and lobotomized.
Lobotomized.
So,
Well,
so did Amanda.
Lobotomized.
Amanda
Also
had her
did
daughter
Amanda.
lobotomized
yes, but not
eventually,
yet.
too.
See, the play is over
but now you're
before I
playing-
have to take responsibility.
Now you're playing the
Before you go
mother.
completely
That's
nuts.
why.
Now, I want to ask you about
My portrayal of Edwina Dakin just goes to the end of this play, and I don't take responsibility beyond that.
one of the set of this production is quite interesting, and again, it's something that critics have objected to. It's this gigantic shower curtain that sort of is pulled around it, and a lot of scenes are enacted behind it. What is that? What was your director, David Laveau, what did he say to you about what this curtain is that you pull around yourselves?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One, because, at the very beginning of the play, Tom says the play is not realistic. And, if you read Tennessee's liner notes, to the play, he actually talks about how some things are exaggerated, some things disappear. So, and he also talks about Tom's prison, the lace prison. And he says, but a prison is a prison. But he absolutely refers to it as a lace prison. So I think the curtains are, we're meant to work on several levels. One, almost like in kabuki theater, where you see the curtains moving back and forth so that the characters emerge and then disappear. And also as like in film, where you have the possibility of a fade out or a cut or something. The curtains can do that because if you know the structure of this play, they're almost like little vignettes in a way. It goes this scene, then the next scene is not connected at all to that scene before, and it so they are kind of like, presented, here is this moment I remember, here's this moment I remember. And last of all, I think, again, all you have to do is read Tennessee's stage description. He talks about the transparent portieres that divide this to make a second proscenium. So you have, all of those things. But mostly all you have to do is read the play and say, oh, transparent portieres. Okay. Lace. Okay. We got them.
Well, I must say you all make a very strong case for this production.
And rightly so.
And rightly so.
Come on.
We wish you well with it, and we thank you all
so
for
much.
being Jessica on our show. Jessica Lange, Josh Lucas, Sarah Paulson, and Christian Slater.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you at the movies.
Why are you trembling?
Mother, you've made me so nervous.
Oh, how have I made you nervous?
By all this fuss, you make it seem so important.
I don't understand you, Laura. You couldn't be satisfied with just staying at home, and yet whenever I try to arrange something for you, you seem to resist it. Now, take a look at yourself. Oh, no, wait. Wait just a minute. I have an idea.
What is it now? Mother, what are you doing?
They call them gay deceivers.
Well, I won't wear them.
You will.
Why should I?
Because, to be perfectly honest, your chest is flat.
You make it seem like we were setting a trap.
All pretty girls are a trap. A pretty trap, and men expect them to be. Now, look at yourself, young lady. Oh. Why, this is the prettiest you will ever be.
Yeah. Which is why it was so wonderful to see her, even at age 80, come back and still do the role as only she knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Friedrich Loh Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
Playbill Online is the official website of Theater Talk and the home of the Playbill Club, providing information and opportunities for theater lovers. We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.